Hey everybody, nice to meet you. Good morning. Thanks for joining us today. Just a few housekeeping matters. I just want to remind everyone again that this video recording is being recorded and it will be put up on, I believe, the BACP's YouTube page later. So the reason I say that is for any questions that you may have. I'm gonna just put them in the sidebar in the chat. And then Stella will be kind enough to read those out, and we'll go through all of those at the end. I'm going to try and talk for maybe about 40-45 minutes and then leave 15-20 minutes at the end for those questions and any follow-up questions. But again, because everything's being recorded, if you have any private information or names or stuff like that, you might just want to make it a little bit general so that the whole world doesn't know your entire business yet if you don't want them to. And then again, I just want to give a quick congratulations to just joining with the webinar and taking part in all the amazing programming that BACP does and a lot of their partners, just because that's the first step in fulfilling whatever mission that you have and what you're trying to build, because a lot of people don't even do that, and they're always thinking about getting started, but they never actually do get started. So take those tangible steps in order to move forward. And that's already more steps than other people take. So that's a good sign for your success in the future. And again, continue taking part in all this amazing programming, because the more people that you network with, the more education that you get. It's only going to help you in the future. So we'll get started on this webinar. Again, I like to first start out with kind of like a mini MBA in a box and some things that you're considering, because not only from the legal aspect, but also some things that maybe while you're still working at your job and have an income stream or something else like that, that you want to kind of get these foundational building blocks in place before you make the jump into your entrepreneurship and going full throttle on that. Some people like to, do things in a measured approach, which is completely understandable. A lot of us, have families, people that rely on us, and things like that. So it's completely understandable that you're trying to do this, and you're trying to take safe risks and smart risks, as opposed to just throwing caution in the wind and figuring out as you go. All right. So a little bit about us, Chokshi Filippone Law. We have offices in the city and in the suburbs, only because suburban people don't like to go into the city, and city people don't like to go into the suburbs usually. And so we go all around Illinois, but mainly focusing in the Chicagoland area, DuPage, Kane, things like that. So in the northern part of Illinois, and we have a multitude of practice areas and opportunities to work with different people and different clients. In terms of my personal background, there's a little bit of my resume, heavily involved in the community. Love doing these programs like with BACP and other partners around the area, like the Women's Business Development Center is a great one too, that does a lot of programming just in and around the city. And again, it's just a way to get information out there, to network, to speak with people and to present things. I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of opportunities with people and mentors and family members that have supported me throughout my journey, and always happy to share that insight. Hopefully it's insight for whatever your purposes might be to help you succeed. At the end of the day, we're all in this together, and so hopefully you find some benefit, and you can keep moving forward and pass the buck on as well later on in your career and your journey. Basic outline on it. Again, starting with the mini MBA in a box, business planning and strategy, some things that you might want to consider as you're developing your business plan and what you're looking to do. And then we'll go through some of the legal aspects in terms of entity selection and formation, and like when you talk about LLCs and corps and stuff like that. These are really going to be broad strokes. One, it wouldn't be proper for me to offer specific legal advice. I will make the disclaimer that there's a reason why you on your bench of players for your company, you want to form those relationships and create opportunity with usually at a minimum you're looking at an attorney, an accountant, unless numbers are your thing and filing taxes and things like that, if that's your core competency. So attorney, accountant, and usually like an insurance person at a minimum, especially if you have a brick and mortar place, because you're going to want to have coverage to make sure what your risks are, and depending on what kind of business you have too. If you're kind of paper business as opposed to physical objects, there's different risk profiles. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then just some helpful tips and best practices as you go out. Most of those I like to say are kind of common sense things, and you really do need to trust your gut on a lot of these things. But it's kind of you do there is a bit of learning as you go and different experiences. So that's where that smart risks kind of idea comes from, and not biting off more than you can chew, but also challenging yourself in order to grow into that next phase of whatever your business might be. And then protecting your business in terms of things that you can do to kind of mitigate those dangerous risks against you and your business so that you're not finding yourself in a tough position and behind the eight ball. So for anyone that's been anywhere near a business seminar, you're probably going to see a lot of this terminology on it. We'll go through it, but these are really the big pieces that you'll want to think about when you're planning what kind of business you want to create, what you want to grow, and who you want to be as a business, and what problem you're solving for people who are going to be your clients, right? Whether it's consulting, whether it's a new product, anything like that, you want to figure out what is the pain point for people and how are you going to make their lives easier and what is the value of that, which is going to determine what kind of pricing structure you have or what you're going to be seeking from clients, paying clients at the end of the day, because everyone's got to put bread on the table. Even nonprofits have to pay for staff and work and all that stuff. So SWOT analysis, one of the big things that you can consider when you're looking at any market that you're considering, or any product, any service. SWOT just stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so you're thinking about not just externally, but also internally too. And so a great place to start is just what are your weaknesses and what are your strengths, and being honest about who you are as a person, and where you excel and where maybe you need some help. So when I mentioned earlier on about numbers is often a thing. So accounting, kind of keeping books, doing taxes, stuff like that. A lot of times people are maybe they're heavy in manufacturing and they understand that world, but they don't understand the numbers thing. And so that's perfectly fine. That's good that you're being honest and taking a self-assessment with that and where you need assistance with certain parts of your business, and then looking for those partners and leaving enough time so that you can interview people to make sure that they are working for your business and not just adding you as a number on their column and a monthly bill that they can send out. You want to make sure that they are about that whoever you're working with is a value add to you and your business, and that they see you and your business as a person that they want to add value to, not just as another target. All right. So you want to be careful that you want to be cautious. A lot of times when you're talking, family and friends about opening a business or things like that, opinions are going to be you're going to have a lot of opinions. A lot of them aren't going to be worth much because, you have to think about the source of the information. Has this person made anything in their life? Have they built a business or have they taken a different path, which is fine. But again, there's just different challenges and risks involved with entrepreneurs and ones that are taking everything on their shoulders themselves. And so you want to have time to talk with those people and be able that they're working for you. And then the other thing too is you want to make sure that you leave enough time so that you can educate yourself too. Because the last thing you want to do is just pass off something to an accountant or a tax person and not know anything at all about that world. You want to know enough so that it's kind of a question about who watches the watchman. And so as a business owner, you're going to be looking at having enough education and being kind of a jack of all trades so that you know if something fishy is going on or there's a red flag popping up or something that you need to look further into. So that, again, one of those risk mitigation strategies, you know enough about everything so that you can kind of figure out if something's about to go downhill and going in a bad direction so that you can course correct on that. So whether that's getting a second opinion from another professional, whether that's digging in on a certain area or what have you. So it's a constant learning process, which is why a lot of these programs are fantastic because you get different viewpoints, different information, and different things will come up at different times that you'll remember and have in your toolbox to help you continue to succeed. But going back to SWOT again, strengths. Who are you? What is your core competency? What do you do great? If it's not numbers, look for an accountant, start having those conversations. Again, learn enough so that you're covered. What do you do different? Because at the end of the day, if all you're doing is if you're starting out with commodities where anything is interchangeable and someone can easily go to someone else or your competitor for the product and all you're competing on is price, it's going to be a difficult situation that you're putting yourself in. You want to think about what is the one pain point, the one unique item or service that you're providing that's going to make lives easier for whatever your market might be. And then we'll go into kind of how do you define what your market is because you're not selling to everyone technically. It could be focused to specific areas, specific niches that you're solving for, which is going to help you out because the more specific your niche and the better your product or service, usually small is not bad because it's kind of you almost want to go in an area where there isn't any competitors right now and then kind of accelerate in that area first and be the first mover in there and do that as opposed to going into a crowded field. Amazon, you probably don't want to go up against some bigger competitors that are already at scale and have reserves that they could take you on very easily and squash you out. So sometimes it's not bad to go under the radar, especially when you're starting out and build your presence that way. Weakness, it's also good, consider who your competitors are in whatever that subset is and whatever that market is. What do they do great? What do they not do as great? And kind of, if you've got a product, pick up that product, start reverse engineering it, kind of break it down, see what they're doing, figure out pricing on each of the products. Maybe you could put it together. You've got supply relationships that you can do it better, and you can have a better product at the end of the day, and kind of eat their breakfast. Which more power to you. And so it's something like that. But you need to fully understand what the business is, the product, the service, in order to kind of bring it down to first steps and figure out the building blocks of that product or service, and then what you're going to do different or how you're going to build it better. And maybe your way is better because it'll have higher margins or it'll have a lower price point at the end of the day, or you'll have a more attractive offer for people than your competitors do. So it's really important to understand what they're doing first because also you can learn from their mistakes. So a lot of times, if you look up your competitors, with news articles, or if they're a public company, if you're looking up their accounting and things like that, you can kind of pick up. All right, here's where they're doing really good. Here's where I think they could be doing better. So I'm going to focus on the areas where they could be doing better, and I'm gonna eat their lunch that way. Opportunities. How do you grow your market? Again, once we decide what the market is, what are the opportunities for doing that? You often see that with companies, maybe for example, like Yeti. They used to have just uh, the the cups that you use on it. And then they got coolers, and then all of a sudden they started growing to, lunch boxes, and they started growing to giant ice buckets. And so you just start seeing if you walk into a Dick's Sporting Good or anything else, you see like an entire wall of Yeti products because they needed to expand beyond just the cups. Once people bought one cup, it's kind of a fad situation too, where you have different water bottles and different companies that it seems like every 6 months or so there's a new one that all the kids want and all the people want that they're bringing around. Stanley, it's like now it was Stanley, and then now like they're going out, and then you got Awala, and also so you have all these kind of fad situations, but it's just a question of what's your product lineup, what services are you offering. If you go into consulting, where you're just kind of business consulting, then do you maybe expand out to cover the entire life cycle of a business? Do you have someone that comes in to do accounting and financial and tax strategy and maybe trusts and estates for mom and pops that want to handle not only their business but also their riches and how they're going to pass that on to their kids and stuff like that. So there's ways and services that you can expand, and then there's opportunities for cross-selling and stuff like that too. And you've often probably seen that when you go into a bank or something like that. You'll go in and they'll kind of, oh, you're interested in buying a house. Why don't you buy a mortgage through us? We'll give you a discount, stuff like that. So, your customer lists are going to be very important, and having those conversations and communications ongoing so that who you have as clients, and maybe they've got some other things on the side that they also need taken care of that you can be of assistance with your competency. And so that kind of makes sense. You don't want to be a consulting business and then open up a maid service to cover your clients' houses or something like that. You want to focus on, again, that core competency. What is it? You don't want to get spread out too thin, because then you have other risks and requirements and things like that. I had a restaurant owner that they were being asked what they opened for lunch and dinner, and they were being asked, why don't you open for breakfast? And this person said, look, if I open for breakfast, I have to get new shifts, I have to get new people in here. I'm never going to be able to go home or take a rest if I don't have people that I can trust holding all this. And then on top of that, I have to buy all this other stuff too, because if I'm serving coffee in the morning, one, I'm competing against Starbucks and any other local coffee shops and breakfast joints and things like that. But then I also have all these new products that I got to come in. I got to buy cups. I got to buy the coffee. I got to buy sugar. When you buy the sugar, you've got 15 different kinds of sugar that your customers are going to want, whether it's Splenda, sugar and raw, regular white sugar, something else. And so it's just all these things, you start getting a lot more complexity that you really need to understand. It's really easy to get what's called scope creep, where you kind of try and be everything and everything to everyone, which is a recipe for disaster, usually because it just starts taking money out of your pocket quicker than you can get money back in your pocket from sales and clients. So you got to be careful with that. Threats. Going back to the Yeti, Stanley, Owala, all those water bottles. What's sometimes there's timing to fads, and you have to be cognizant of the life cycle of things, and whether it's something that's eternal or whether it's something that's just going to be for a few months. And how do you maybe you do want to do that, and you just want to hit a couple months where like that's your focus of your business, like those Halloween superstores. Obviously, that's going to be really specific to the fall, but those Spirit Halloween stores, they just go in, they get an open location in a strip mall. They know for 2 3 months that they tell the landlord, hey, this thing has been empty for the past 2 years. We just need a big space. Boom, boom. We're going to get in and out. Give us a short-term lease. We'll give you some money. You'll be happy, so you're not losing it for those 3 months at least. And then they have all their boxes that they bring in. They stuff everything to the gills, and make their sales, and then that's it. And then they spend the rest of the year kind of ordering and getting everything together and getting there ready for their next move out. I think recently even they expanded with their product offerings, right? I think they started doing like Christmas stores where it was Spirit Christmas or something, and so they took out all the Halloween stuff and they brought in all the Christmas stuff, because that's a big holiday, spending holiday for people as well, for decorations and stuff like that. And so they took that on. And so you're seeing that in different areas. It's great to just kind of open your eyes to see what other big players, small players are doing as well, to kind of get ideas and see these kinds of things in real life and how they're working. Porter's Five Forces, that's going to be, where you're looking at the threat of new entry is going to be the biggest one. That's going to focus on, if you do something great, how easy is it for someone else to come? And so sometimes you might hear about things like barriers to entry or moats, just like a castle with the water around it to protect against easy intrusion, and you got to get the bridge down and all that stuff so that someone just can't walk up to your door and knock it down. That's kind of the idea. What do you do that's special? And this is going to help you focus on your strategy as well. What do you do that's unique or special that someone else can't do? Because if it's easy replicatable, if that is a word, then it kind of becomes like a commodity. Like it doesn't really, gas, when you get gasoline for your car, it doesn't really matter where you go. It's whether it's Citgo, whether it's Shell or so, it's all the same stuff that you're pumping in. And so that's why those stores and those snacks and things like that, or those loyalty programs where they try and get you in to go to Shell instead of Citgo because they're giving you an extra 5 cents, or they're giving you a great car wash option or something else that they want to kind of make those customers sticky so that they go to a Shell. And that's also why they're trying to build their brand to kind of say, hey, I'm different than Citgo. We're a better gasoline. We're a better experience. Something different that they're trying to do to differentiate themselves from something that is a commodity, like gasoline, like rice. It's, most of that stuff, it doesn't matter who you buy it from. You'll see it at the grocery store. A great example that I like to see, and that I have seen is, they'll have like, cuties, tangerines. Tangerine's a tangerine, and tangerine, right? But now you have this company that brands them as cuties, and so you got these, cute photos. You got a name attached to it, and it's fantastic. Kleenex, you got boxes. That's the name brand. It's just tissue paper. It is what it is for most people. It's interchangeable easily. But Kleenex tries to promote a brand and comfort and point out these commercials and things like that to kind of make themselves seem like they're different and better than their competitor, it's the same product. Um, but different areas. I've seen like in at the store too, they started selling these like branded potatoes, these little potatoes in bags, and they have like cute drawings on them, and they're different colors and stuff like that. And so they're trying to package it in a way that tries to differentiate themselves, so that this company's selling potatoes. Potato is a potato, right? So, how do you differentiate yourself? Supplier power. If you're working with people, you're not actually creating that product. You're kind of working with vendors and other people up the supply chain. You need to figure out where are your pain points there, because what happens if what happens if your supplier goes out of business? If I'm putting together a gift basket company, I'm probably not weaving the baskets myself that I'm using. I'm buying those from a basket supplier, and so that company themselves makes the baskets and sells them to me for a price, and then I put it all together and put all the stuff in there, and then I sell that entire package as a convenience to companies and people that want to give out gift baskets, right? And so that you're probably going to want more than one gift, actual wicker, because what happens if someone goes out of business, or if they're shipping stuff from overseas? What happens if we have trade wars or political differences or shipping delays or things like that? And that's going to impact how you're able to deliver your final product as well. So you have to think about everything in the supply chain, all the stuff you put into those gift baskets, where are you going to buy them from, things like that. Sometimes you'll see people, their supplier, like a Cisco or GFS or stuff like that. They'll have, deliveries brought into your business, and that's their business, is to help out restaurants and stuff like that by making their life easy. Oh, my apologies. But what happens if a delay gets shipped? And so that's why often you'll see, restaurant owners, they'll run to the store and pick up, uh, some Coca-Cola ingredients or stuff like that, because they just need it in a pinch in order to make sure that they get some kind of coverage and some protection as well. Buyer power. Who's your market, and what are they trying to do? Do they have the ability to kind of twist the screws on you, in terms of setting pricing and expectations and timelines and things like that? You need to be very honest with, your clients, especially when you're just starting out, about what you can or can't do. Because if you take too big of an order and you can't deliver, that's going to be a black stain on you, and word's going to get around, and that's not going to be a very good, front that you're putting to the mass population. So you got to be careful with, over promising and under delivering. You want to do the opposite. You always want to over deliver and kind of under promise, or at least kind of limit what your risk is on it, and making sure that you're capable of taking this on. Which again, a lot of this preparation in terms of having your supply chain, having the people that you're working with, what have you, and doing all this foundational work at the start is going to put you in a better position to know what you can or can't do. And then if you can't do it right now, okay, what steps do you need to take to better position you in the future for success? Is it that you need to, Teslas, they started out with the Model S. That car was a very it was a low volume car, but it was a very high price. And so they took that money for, the 125K or whatever it was, and plowed that into creating manufacturing lines and design for the lower priced vehicles like the 3 or the Y that are now kind of their bread and butter on the vehicle business. And so they took that money that was essentially a startup capital they were using from that really niche car, high priced, to certain people that wanted that electric experience, and be an early adopter. And they plowed that into machinery and tooling and designs to make that mass market car. And so that's why now, if you look at their numbers, they just had their earnings call, but 3 and Y are really the bulk of it in terms of vehicle sales. And the X and the S, which are the more premium cars and bigger cars, they're discontinuing them because it was really kind of a rounding error in terms of the number of sales that they had on that compared to where they are now with their other cars and mass market appeal. So, it's a lot of times too, it's hard to make those decisions, and some people just get emotionally attached to it. You need to make sure you detach yourself from your business and kind of look at the numbers and what the customers are telling you in order to be responsive. You're not going to be able to shove a product down someone's throat that doesn't want it. You need to be genuine in what you're delivering and how you deliver it as well. Again, to solve that pain point for that person, always focus on what is the problem that you're solving, and then what is that value that you bring to the table, and that's going to be the pricing that's going to help you with that, but also in customer retention. So always pay attention to what your customers are saying. Always constantly improve. There's a continuous improvement loop that you're looking for, feedback, improvements, and then see what that does. And if that's a benefit to your business, great, keep doing it. If it's not, time to take a step back, readjust, see what's going to work and what isn't. And if it doesn't, there's no harm, no foul in saying no, or getting rid of it, because that's just going to be a cost center and more time and effort that is taken away from the profit producing areas of your business. And that's what you want to focus on at the end of the day. So, these business plans, when you're starting out, it's not surprising you want to give them enough time to kind of matriculate and give them the ability to prove themselves with work. But 6 months, a year, if something's not working, that's enough time. You need to kind of change gears. And so that's where these kind of business strategy ideas kind of come from, is what you can look at and what you're looking for. I think it was a Chicago State professor that says, where are you going and how will you know when you get there? That's really important, and that's what measurement tools and having those metrics so that you know where you're going, you have that focus, and then how you'll know when you got there. How will you know that? Will that be because you have a certain number of clients, you have a certain number of recurring clients, you have a certain number of billables, you have a certain margin that you're hitting, something like that, to keep growing and to know that you are moving forward instead of just putting money into a hole. Marketing mix, when you're looking to, all right, how do you sell this product? Usually it's going to be a combination of a few of these: product, price, people, promotion, and place. Think about like a toilet plunger, right? Most people aren't going to spend, you can look at the product and what the people are using it for, and what they're expecting on it. Most people aren't going to spend $300 on a toilet plunger. All right. Maybe if that's your marketing, you think that you've got this amazing toilet plunger, maybe you want to focus on people that use it day in, day out, like craftsmen or tradesmen in the plumbing business, right? That maybe they've got, or maybe you got a giant commercial business that you want to reach out to, or landlords, like major landlords in the area or something like that. And you'd be like, look, you can buy these cheap ones for $5 a pop, use them once and then they go away, which for most people that's all they need. But for you, you're constantly using these plungers, you're constantly having calls, landlord. You always say you've got, 300 units in this building. Look at this. You spend $300 on my plunger. It's going to last you for 3 years. It's going to do the work itself. It's going to clear clogs 95% of the time with one shot. That means less money that you need to spend for to reach out to a contractor to do higher price plumbing work or something else like that. And so that's where you kind of differentiate yourself and explain why the $300 price point is worth it for your plunger as opposed to going to Home Depot and getting, a $5 plunger for one-time use that most people just that's all they need. And if they need it again, they got no issue throwing that one out and going and getting another one or something like that because it's not a common enough occurrence for them to be concerned about spending too much money on it. Um, the type of people. I mean, what is your brand? Who are you going towards? If you've got a higher end product, you're going to be going to people that have got a higher disposable income. So when you're looking at your marketing lists, and you can get a lot of stuff too with programs like speaking of the local library, you usually have a business librarian in there, and they have access to a lot of different programs that can help you with marketing and finding mailing lists and things like that if that's how you want to do your marketing. And those are usually free resources too. So that's a great go to your local library, talk to your business librarian, see all the great programming that they have and all the computer programs and access to stuff that you wouldn't have normally at home, or it would be behind a paywall. So do that kind of stuff. But you're going to be looking at areas that maybe there's a higher median income. So you might be looking at areas like Winnetka more than other areas, like Galesburg or something like that, because the location and the median income of certain communities is, and that's all public information as well. You can get that through census information, through village and city websites and towns and stuff like that to kind of see, all right, I probably got a higher concentration of people that would fit my market or would be able to purchase my product. And so I'm gonna hit those people because I'm gonna have a better chance of success there. And a lot of times that's all it is probability. You've got a better chance of selling high price plungers to this group than you are to this other group, where there aren't as many people in the town, there aren't as many high priced homes, there aren't as many two-person salaries in the home and median income and stuff like that. So you're kind of focusing on where you want to hit with that stuff. Promotion, you see that stuff like end caps when you go to Jewel or something like that. You've got stuff that bright colors, wording. You're really even billboards, stuff like that. But you need to think about if you're that big and you're looking to do that kind of promotion, you need to think about like, all right, what hits your eye? What's going to train your attention? Because there's so much color, words stores are trying so hard to grab your attention 85 million different ways in order to say, hey, me, my product's better, my product, look at me, get me kind of thing. And so the placement, you'll see it on the shelves. Like sometimes they'll do the high sugar cereals, name brand. They'll do them on the, second or third shelf because that's kids' heights. And so this way your kid's going to be looking over at Tony the Tiger and saying, Mom, Dad, I want this one. And so their client is the kid, but only so far as they know the kid's going to be able to push and pressure the parent to buy it so that the kid stops complaining, right? So you'll see a lot of those name brand cereals a little bit lower. Or when you go to checkout, you'll see a lot of those little tchotchkes and last second things, gum, batteries, stuff like that'll be over. Usually really low. You got a couple toys and stuff like that because when you're putting stuff on a conveyor and you're paying, kids not doing anything, they're idle, and so they're looking at all these little toys on the side on ground or near the ground. And so you're kind of thinking about how do you best promote yourself based on who you're trying to attract? All this kind of goes into your general business plan. Again, your local library, they have a lot of programs that help you create these business plans too. So you have a little bit of a template that you can kind of use to fill in and succeed as well. And so when you go through that stuff, you create this business plan. If you're looking for funding through a banker, a lender, that's another one that you're probably going to want on your bench if you need some startup capital that you're not getting from friends or families or fools the first seed. You're going to want to have some kind of concrete plan in place in terms of what you're doing and how you're doing it, so that someone knows, hey, if I give this person $200,000, there's a good chance it's going to be paid back with interest. Because that's ultimately what a bank wants to know is, hey, how safe is my return on this one? That's what I care about. And so this business plan kind of puts everything into context so that you can better grow and sell your business to other people to invest so that if you don't have the capital all completely, or even as you grow, if you need new capital for machines or other things like that in order to grow your business, you just need to show that the capital that you're getting in is going to return a higher amount than what you're paying for it. Going on to legal, these are the big ones that you always hear about: LLCs, sole prop, partnerships, corporations, things like that. At the end of the day, all those, all of them except for sole proprietorship, the biggest thing is to separate your business assets from your personal assets. And so it's kind of like you're creating a little bit of a shield between your assets in order to make sure if something goes bad with your company, you have a claim or a bankruptcy or something like, if something goes where it doesn't work out, and that's okay. In California, they got this fail fast. If it doesn't work out, you're better off finding out sooner than later and pumping money into it to try and keep it afloat, and it's still going to end. So it's okay to know when kind of if there's an end to it, and take that time to review and make sure that there aren't changes that you can make it more successful. But if it is something where it's not a great fit or your product just didn't live up to the expectations of what you thought, it's okay to say goodbye to things and then kind of use that information and that knowledge for your next adventure, and your next product or service. But all of these, again, except for sole prop, you're looking at just protecting your personal assets because you need to be smart on the risk that you take and making sure that the business side doesn't impact your personal. And so even if things all go downhill, you're not going to lose your home or you're not going to lose your personal savings or things like that for your family. So that's the shield that you want. And that's ultimately what an entity is. And that's what an attorney would help you kind of create and file things with, typically the Secretary of State and whatever entities need to be filed with in order to create that kind of shield between your personal assets and business assets. Sole prop, that one's the one where you don't have that shield between your personal and business assets. That one's more like think about a lemonade stand. Like maybe it's just you're starting out really small, or you're just trying to teach a kid, or you're just trying to get a proof of concept or something like that. And the risk isn't huge to you. It's not a huge financial thing. You're just going door to door trying to sell something. You don't really need to spend the money or hire an attorney yet to do all the paperwork in order to make it official and start paying fees and getting licenses and stuff like that. So you're trying to get a proof of concept. Again, lemonade stand, low risk, uh, kind of on it, and then you can always build that into something else in an actual company if it's positive. But by and large, you don't want to be a sole prop because again, you don't have that shield between your personal and your private assets. Partnerships, that one you just want to be careful with because the people that you work with are going to be kind of agents for your company. And so if you work with a knucklehead who constantly underbids and says, yeah, I'll mow your 2-acre lawn for $50, um, you know, eh, you're going to be on the hook for $50 to do that entire job, and no doubt you're going to be losing money on it. But your friend, your partner that you're working with, gave that quote to a person they already paid. You're kind of stuck with it. For the homeowner, they don't care. It's not their problem that you underbid it. You're the one that presented it, and your buddy that was wearing the shirt that said Augie's Lawns and stuff like that made that promise. So you need to be really be careful with who your partners are, and businesses. kind of think of it as a marriage, with whoever your partner is, to make sure that you're going into business with people that you trust and that you know are not going to, create a bad outcome for you. If someone's going to create more headaches than more value, they shouldn't be your partner. They shouldn't have access to your business or represent your business or your books or things like that, which is why anyone that you partner with in a business, if it's going to be more than two people, again, think about it like a marriage and treat it like so. Corporations, this one's going to be your traditional entity where it does have rights like a living breathing person. You do have some paperwork that you need to file with the state and any state that you do work in as well too, that you do business in. And there's going to be the bylaws and things like that and articles in corporation. Those are part of the formation documents, but the bylaws are also kind of, think of it like the prenup for the company. Those are the rules of the road. Who's responsible for what? Who gets decision making authority? Who has financial authority? Things like that you want to focus on to make sure that everyone knows what the structure is for the company and who's kind of in charge or how decisions are made, so that you kind of protect the business and protect the potential to find red flags sooner than later. With the taxation, again, that's why you want to talk with a good accountant and make sure that you focus on that stuff too, in order to make sure that your expenses, your revenues, where things are going is beneficial and legal to your company and what you're trying to do and how you're trying to build it. So you'll often see S Corp or C Corp uh, uh, wording for that one. Again, definitely have that talk with your accountant and your attorney and use that as a team to kind of figure out what the best avenue for you and your business is. LLCs, those are nice. Again, the limited liability protection. But it's a little less paperwork than a corporation is. You don't have to have, annual meetings or things like that specifically. But there are some annual, renewals that you need to do in order to maintain the business. You still want to keep things on the up and up, and written and operating agreements is kind of the prenup is the word that they use for LLCs as opposed to corp, where especially if you have partners, it goes through who's keeping track of the accounts, what access to information everyone has in order to make sure that your partners are treating you fair as well, and then what the rules of the road are for that company and the decision making and where the power lies and all that stuff too. So it's a few less formalities than a corporation, but it still will give you that limited liability protection that you want. And so a lot of times that's why people, when they're just starting out their businesses, they'll operate an LLC because they can do the paperwork a lot easier and maybe a lot quicker and cheaper than a corporation, which has more hoops and things that you need to fill out, which means more costs usually for an attorney, accountant, stuff like that, bookkeepers. We just went through that, some of the differences on there, but state of Illinois also has a Secretary of State. They've got a lot of fantastic information as well. And if anyone wants kind of a chart with the different entities and some of the back and forth about what one has, what one doesn't kind of thing, feel free to reach out to me. I have some of that material. I'll have my email at the end of the presentation as well. So happy to send that out for general information. But again, that's a conversation you want to have with your attorney and your accountant to determine what your business is, what your risks is, which entity is going to be best for you and best suited for you as well. In terms of best practices, again, you want to make sure that you keep everything on the up and up, because the last thing you want to do is start mixing money from your business accounts and your personal account, or start taking personal accounts and putting into your business, because you need to have that difference and that separation of the buckets. If you're going to have, your business, pay yourself a salary, my apologies, make sure that you have a check that's paid through payroll, have the proper taxes, all that stuff taken out, and then that gets deposited into your personal account. And then from your personal account, that's where you're going to pay your mortgage on your house. Don't pay the mortgage on your personal house with your company check, because then that's intermingling funds. And then that's how you effectively destroy that shield that you got between your personal and your business assets. And so then if you get sued or something happens down the road, someone, smart attorney is going to not only ask for your business assets, but they're going to say, hey, I want their personal money as well. And so you're going to have a tough time showing the judge why, no, 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 these are two separate, distinct things when you're intermingling those funds and you're kind of putting it all together into one big ball. So you want to be careful with that. Make sure you keep separate buckets. Make sure you keep separate banking accounts, separate reporting for stuff like that. With when you have a really, really small LLC, you can schedule those any revenue that you got a few dollars or something as Schedule C, so it's just a few extra dollars. But when you get a bigger business, you're going to want to keep it separated, and you still want to keep those separate accounts, separate checks. Make sure when you sign contracts, stuff like that, that they're underneath your name as the manager of the LLC, not just you individually. Sometimes with bigger accounts or banks, stuff like that, they might want a guarantee. That's perfectly fine. That will not break your liability shield. And you're okay with doing that. The biggest thing with those is that the guarantee is just that's the bank saying, hey, anyone and their mom can open up an LLC, but I want to make sure that in case you do fold up, there's another source of revenue that we can go to get our money back. And that's why we want the personal guarantee, which means the bank will be allowed to come after you personally, which again is fine and it's expected because it's another way for the bank to kind of collateralize what they're putting out and give them protection. And as you get bigger, you'll be able to say no, go underneath my company, like Coca-Cola. They don't need to sign a personal guarantee because Coca-Cola is a big enough company. They got a big enough reputation. They got big enough reserves that a company knows there's an extremely good chance that Coca-Cola is going to pay us at the end of the month. They don't know that with the company just starting out. Augie's Cola just starting out for the first month. I don't have as much credibility as Coca-Cola does. Trademarks, if you got anything specific with your company, like a name or something like that, you can file those with the USPTO or you can go state by state. The biggest thing, if you file anything with the USPTO, that I will say, it needs to be some product or service that's being commercially used. Commercial is the big word, and what that focuses on is making sure that it's beyond just state lines. So if if your business is in Illinois and all your customers and all your sales are in Illinois, you're not going to be able to file for a federal trademark because you're not selling across state lines. Once you start doing that, then you can show commercial use and give that date, and those are important things. But otherwise, Secretary of State, there are also state by state trademarks where you can file with a specific state. So if you know all your businesses in Illinois and you want to make sure someone else doesn't use Augie's Lawns for their tagline or for their business, I can file with the Secretary of State in Illinois to just protect my interest in that name. So if someone else, my neighbor, starts using Augie's Lawns to try and confuse the population on who they're doing business with and try and trade off of my good name, hopefully my good name, they won't be able to do that. And I'll be able to send them a cease and desist and say, hey, you can't use Augie's Lawns. That's me. If you want to use Frank's Lawns, more power to you, and then we'll compete on who can mow more lawns. But you need to have that protection. The biggest things with trademarks are just avoiding customer confusion. What's someone out there in the world going to think? Which is why you don't have restaurants opening up that are McDonald's or using arches or things like that that are very specific to that company and to that brand. And so it doesn't create customer confusion, and you're not trading off someone else's name that they spend a lot of money to build up that recognition in the public market. When you go through these processes, some of the things that you're going to do, like City of Chicago, you need to get a business license to make sure that you're a reputable business, and so that like if you're a food service, so they can do inspections and stuff like that to make sure that the public is safe and you're not selling bad food that's going to make people sick, stuff like that. So there is some oversight in terms of whether it's a City of Chicago, if you're your local municipality, they're going to want things like business licenses to kind of know who you are, who the owner is, where their spot is, who's responsible for maintaining that business, just to keep as a registration of listing. And so I have the general information, but you all coming from the BACP on the programming certainly already have this, but just as a kind reminder. And this goes not only for the city of Chicago. Again, if you're doing, Forest Park or anywhere else, like your local municipality is going to have their own requirements that they put on, whether that's planning, zoning, or licensing, or what have you. A good thing to do is reach out to the community development team for wherever that municipality is and kind of ask them what their process is and application. Usually it's very simple, straightforward, but there might be something with like zoning where you can't open up a certain type of business, like you can't open up a gas station right next to a house or something. Maybe there's a buffer, so you want to know that so that you know where you're looking to open up your business. Sometimes like daycares, they can't be near certain areas or something like that. Like you probably don't want daycare right next to a prison in case there's a breakout and the risk of kids or a nuclear reactor or something in your town. So I'm going to extremes to kind of give examples, but that's what zoning is. You're just trying to figure out the best way to create a city where people can thrive and businesses can thrive as well, but also not harm each other in the meantime. You're just like any condo association or what have you. All right, so I know I went a little bit long. I apologize, but if we have any questions, if those can be read, and we'll try and get to as many as possible. And again, thank you so much for your time. My information is there. If anyone would like any follow-up questions or that material that I mentioned, feel free to reach out and let me know. Oh, I apologize. Stella, are you still there? All right, let's try and go through these. Oh, thank you, everybody. All right, thank you. Let's see. If you go into a partnership, how do you pay yourselves out of the LLC? You're gonna so as soon as you create that LLC, typically with the Secretary of State of wherever your company is going to be created, what you're going to do is you're also going to apply for what's called an employer identification number, an EIN, with the IRS for that company. And so that's the best way to do it because otherwise, if you just create a company, technically your name on it, the EIN is your social security number. So when you're giving that like a tax form to vendors or stuff like that, you don't want to be giving out, Augie's Lawns and give my social to people. So the IRS, it's EIN, again, employer identification number. It's a free thing. You don't need to pay anything for it. The IRS will give it to you. You just go in, you say what your company is, what the file number for the filing that you did with the company, and then they'll give you an employer identification number and use that. You bring the confirmation of the filing, the articles of incorporation or anything like that. And then you bring that EIN from the IRS. The bank will open up a new account for you, get different checks with the name of your company, Augie's Lawns LLCs, and then you pay yourself through that. And so usually people have a payroll service like ADP or I think it's called like Greenvine or something like that. There's a whole bunch of these things that you can go out there to get. You don't need like a suit and tie kind of a green hat kind of accountant to do your payroll, but there's a lot of ways to do it. And so you're taking money from the business account and you're paying yourself. That's ultimately how you do it. And if you don't have any of that, at a minimum, you want to take a check and write, $2,000 payroll for from Augie's Lawns to Augie individually, and then deposit that into your personal account. And so long as you have that paper trail, you're going to be solid, and that's where you want to go. Oh, Basic Otter. Uh, oh, yep, it's the cereal. Let's see. Good morning, everybody. All right. Do. Let's see what else we got. Oh, If I'm trying to start up without much, if any of my own capital, how lucky am I to land a micro loan? It depends on who you're working with. Some banks are more a great resource that you can use is a small business development centers. They've got offices throughout the city as well as the suburbs. Small business development center, that's where you want to go through, and those are the people that are going to give you the best information. They've got additional programming. They also have communications and programs with local banks. Like Wintrust does a lot of stuff with usually the smaller community banks are going to be more of the hand-holding banks where they do kind of micro loans and give you more assistance than you would get at something like a Bank of America or a Chase or something because that's not their clientele. They're not focused on really small mom and pop as much as they are the local community banks and charters and things like that. So, look at some companies like Wintrust or Village Banks or things like that, some of the smaller ones, but start with the Small Business Development Center, find a one that's closest to you, and they'll be able to put you in contact with some of these banks that have these micro loans and small business geared funding, whether that's government contracts or abilities or state programs or things like that, that'll be able to help you. And then the other one too, Women's Business Development Center, they do a great program. A lot of great people over there. I do a lot of stuff with them as well, and Mora and everyone over there. They're fantastic, and they have a lot of great resources in terms of connections with different programs and giving you. Opportunities as well and connections that you can have. And then certainly the BACP, there's a lot of different programming in some of these classes. You can get certificates depending on the number of classes that you take and stuff like that. So that's another great tool that you have. When the LLC and sole prop, biggest thing is just you don't have sole proprietor doesn't have that shield, that protective shield with personal versus business assets. So that's the biggest difference, and that's what you want. You want to again protect your personal assets from your business in case something goes bad with the business. When I was younger, I was just opening LLCs without knowing what I was doing. Never followed up on. Oh, I apologize. I'll put this. There you go. So I'm not blocking contact information in case anyone wants that to follow up. Do I need to know anything? How operations and business? I want to focus on something else. It- It's typically if you're going to close up your business, you're going to file, dissolution paperwork. Most of the time, if people don't have the funding to do it or the ability to do it, what they'll do is it'll just be administratively dissolved through the state. They'll go through the rolls, and that's why you need to have this annual filing requirement, which the state wants to know, hey, do you still want to be a business? And if you don't file it with LLCs in Illinois, it's I believe $75 a year. And that's just the state saying, hey, you still want to be a business, you still want that liability protection, fantastic. Here you go. You're good to go for another year. And that's really what they do. Harris Bank for small business. Yep, that's another great one too. Um, Parkway, there's a lot of, again, smaller banks, usually not the national chains, are going to be your help for small business. But a lot of them have a lot of programs too. Uh, I have a basket business and event planner. Do I need LLC or sole prop? Again, that one I'll tie to what I mentioned on the slides previously to differentiate. And again, if you have any additional questions, follow up, feel free to reach out, and we can have that private conversation with whoever you go with and whoever you're comfortable with. Licensing, how much that costs? I'll end it with that one. It's going to depend. I know that's kind of a kick in the can, but it just depends on whether you're with the city, what type of business you are, whether you're a service, whether you're a business, a product, what it might be, and then also what your which municipality you're in. So Mount Prospect, where we have an office, might have a different fee than the city of Chicago might have, and you might have offices in either one or something like that. So that's where we're going. With City of Chicago, that one file for licensing, and they'll let you know what that fee is. Again, depend on what your business is, what you're doing, where you're at. But you'll always know ahead of time, and go to the website. And check out, they usually have those schedule of fees listed on there for what it is, and how easily to apply for it as well. So Thank you, everyone. That's my time. I want to make sure that I keep everyone on schedule and then respectful of your time. So I appreciate everything that you all have done and appreciate your time. And I want to wish you great success in your future endeavors. Thanks, everybody. All right, Stella or BACP, do you want to send us out or have any last words of encouragement?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was working on the project. Ali, thank you for today's presentation and thank you to everyone that attended today. The announcement has been made for our upcoming Small Business Expo, so please visit our website so that you can register. We are having two in-person expos and one remote expo. So please take the time out to log onto our website and register for our upcoming expos for 2026. If you are a part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, your account will automatically reflect your attendance for today within 24 hours. Today's webinar was recorded and will be available on our YouTube page at youtube.com/Chicago BAC. Thank you again to today's presenter, Augie, and everyone stay warm this weekend. Thank you.